Hello and hello. Thank you so much for joining me today. This video stood out to me. In fact, this was sent in. I don't have a name for who sent it in. I think it was an anonymous person. My apologies if I just forgot to put your name down. But yeah, it's a letter to America from a German man. A German man named Jean Berkman. I think that's how you pronounce that. Regardless, go check out his channel. I mean, wow. He's got about 19,000. Let's see if we can hit 19. Oh, go being his 19,000th subscriber. And this video has 500,000 views in 3 weeks. So that's essentially like viral, considering he has 19,000 subs, 500,000 views. Whoa. So I'm excited to hear him out. Let's hear what he's got to say to me. And I will respond. My response letter. That's what I'll title this. No, I won't. Anyway.
Dear American citizens.
Oh, he actually wrote a letter. Okay, all right. This is not off the cuff.
We have an urgent message for all Americans. We are observing a democracy in grave jeopardy. With great...
Wow, okay, already. The tone of this, I realize, is not like... This isn't like a joke, you know? Sometimes these type of videos are like a comedian. Like I saw one the other day, you know, I reacted to a comedian from Denmark saying stuff, you know, to America about Trump. This is not a joke. Okay, got it.
in grave jeopardy.
I agree.
With great risk to the freedoms that Americans hold so dear.
Indeed.
We know because we've been there. And we encourage and support peaceful and civil protests and action to defend and save those freedoms.
Thank you.
We are a German non-governmental civil society network of independent organizations and private individuals. One of our members is a working group of Omas gegen Rechts, grannies against the far right, who...
Grannies against the far right, that's pretty badass.
After being founded in Vienna, Austria, in 2017, have been active in Germany since 2018. The
2017, so was it? Well, I guess there's just been a rise in the far right really around the world since about that era, but also notably, you know, that's when Donald Trump first obviously became his president in 2016. Anyway.
In 2017, have been active in Germany since 2018.
Okay.
The OMAs are recognized as one of the most influential civil society women's initiatives in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland.
Wow.
Campaigning against right-wing populism and for democracy. The German grannies against the far right are mostly women who grew up in post-war Germany. Some of them experienced the Second World War themselves.
That's interesting. You know, I was kind of wondering why grannies, but actually I guess it does make sense that the people who, obviously those people are now old. No offense, if you're one of them, but if you experienced World War II, you're now old. Tragically, there will be a time in the, you know, some number of years where there will be nobody alive to warn us who has firsthand experience. That's pretty tragic in my opinion. Anyway.
Some of them experienced the Second World War themselves. In this network, we have joined forces to take a stand against right-wing extremist ideologies and fascism.
Okay.
Given Germany's history, we see this as our collective duty, especially to our children and grandchildren. We know from our own experience how fascism can destroy a country, its freedom, and its society. And it is our responsibility to leave our descendants and future generations a world in which there is no place for dictatorship, hatred, and fear. World War II destroyed Europe and killed millions of people. Promises of greatness and superiority led our nation into a war of annihilation against our neighbors.
Yes, there are some obvious parallels there, isn't there? Let me hear him say that again.
Let us.
Promises of greatness and superiority, yes. I mean, I guess that's how fascists tend to work, you know. That's how any type of cult tends to work, you know. They promise you great things.
And superiority led our nation into a war of annihilation against our neighbors. These promises duped people into following its egregious and inhumane ideology about unworthy life. It has taken generations to try to heal these wounds, and they remain. That is why after the Second World War, Germany took an oath on which our constitution is based. Never again will we allow ourselves to be ruled by fascism. Without the United States, the Allied forces would not have succeeded in liberating Germany from the terror of Nazism. We remain profoundly grateful for this. Without your country, Germany...
That's really nice of him to say. It is reminiscent, very annoyingly to me, it's reminiscent now of like how Trump was at, which I think it was in Davos, where he was like, without me. He didn't say without me, although I wouldn't put it past him. No, without the United States, you'd all be speaking German. Of course, it was extremely stupid because it was in Switzerland and they were speaking German. But you know what I'm trying to say. The point is, he takes that aspect, that, you know, the fact that we entered into World War II and helped, we were a major factor in the victory for the Allied forces. You know, Trump takes that and he's a total jackass about it. You know, total freaking insufferable jackass about it.
We remain profoundly grateful for this. Without your country, Germany would not have democracy today. This connects our two countries.
Wow.
And it is the reason we appeal to you so...
It makes it just, him saying that just makes me feel all the more despicable for what has been going on, you know? But it's interesting as well because it's like he's saying, okay, now it's our turn, you know? That's why he's making this video. He's saying, we want to help you, you know? You helped us, we want to help you. It's actually quite beautiful. I got chills thinking about that, in fact, just now. Damn.
Urgently today to warn all Americans, your democracy is in danger.
It is in danger. It really is in danger. People really don't understand the significance of... I mean, there's a lot of different aspects to it, but one of the most significant to me is how Trump has undermined people's trust in our elections. You know, to me, that's one of the most bastard things he's done here domestically, because that might impact us for generations, even after, you know, I think we will reject them, the MAGA movement, in the next federal election, and hopefully in this upcoming midterms election. Regardless, I think that having a massive segment of the population not believe in our elections, it's just devastatingly bad. It's just devastatingly bad. Because, I mean, the thing is, what's the rational response if you truly believe your elections in your country are fake? What is the rational response? And they're under that impression because of Trump.
When we look at today's America, we see a deeply divided nation.
Indeed.
We no longer see the country that helped liberate us a mere 80 years ago.
A lot can change in 80 years. Look at Germany. It's remarkable.
What we see today leaves us profoundly shaken. Make America Great Again is a right-wing populist slogan. And
you know, those words, though, don't really hit, they don't hit the same in America as they do in Germany because we have a different history, and right-wing populism isn't even viewed as like, that's not necessarily a bad thing here in America. You know, that's how it doesn't have a bad connotation, right-wing populism. I mean, populism is an interesting word, you know, in that sometimes it actually has positive connotations. I don't know about Germany, but here in America, it can, you know, it can mean you're of the people. I'm actually curious, now that I'm talking about it, to like let's read this AI definition real quick. Populism is a thin-centered ideological and political style that pits a morally pure, quote, people against a corrupt, entrenched elite. It is characterized by anti-establishment sentiment, charismatic leadership, and a desire to restore power to the citizenry, often through direct majoritarian or nationalist action. While it can promote democracy by fostering political engagement among marginalized groups, it often threatens liberal democracy by attacking minority rights, pluralism, and checks on power. Left-wing populism combines left-wing economic policies with anti-elitist, anti-establishment rhetoric, framing politics as a struggle between the people and entrenched power structures. Yeah, okay. It's kind of, honestly, it's a little bit confusing of a definition, like a way to label something, because it can be good and it can be bad. But it can be used as like propaganda, you know what I mean? By people manipulating the people to say, you know, like Trump did, obviously, to say, you know, he's of the people and he needs to, you know, we all need to undermine the system because it's it's the swamp and it's all garbage and you need to tear it all down and replace it with me. Haha, Donald Trump. You know, obviously that's ridiculous.
Leaves us profoundly shaken. Make America Great Again is a right-wing populist slogan. And slogans like these justify fascism. We know because we have seen this before. We understand how fascism grows and how it manipulates citizens with false promises that exploit their fears and prejudices. We know because in our country too, people longed for a strong leader and believed his promises. MAGA leaders are quickly destroying American democracy, American society, and increasingly the American economy, while enriching themselves.
I think that's the next chapter, okay? We're about to watch that one play out. I'm pretty sure. We'll see. We'll see how much we can make the bubble last, how long it can last, you know, as far as like the AI bubble and the housing bubble, you know, and this type of thing. I mean, I don't know if it's the canary in the coal mine, but crypto has obviously popped recently. Which is, that's a signal to me that people are nervous. You know what I mean? Because obviously crypto, as an asset class, is very risky, you know? So when people get nervous, when there's a lot of uncertainty about what's going on, people pull out of risky assets and put it, you know, they obviously invest in more safe ones. So anyway, yeah.
That was in the process. It was no different here in 1933. At first, some people believed they were benefiting from Hitler's policies, but that changed quickly. The fascists had already divided people into categories and cruelly judged their worth and their lives. Once Hitler became Imperial Chancellor in January 1933, it took the Nazis only 2 months to completely destroy Weimar democracy. Watching your federal government occupy cities and target migrants is eerily familiar. The rapid destruction of the rule of law, suppression of speech, including the press, universities, science and basic right of assembly, imperialist fantasies about conquering other countries, even allies, information control and centralized propaganda, blatant corruption at the highest level, violent expulsion of people under the guise of illegal migration, and an exodus of the brightest minds to other countries where they can freely do their work. MAGA can...
That was a lot.
not offer a future to the American dream. Worse, the crisis of your democracy is directly linked to our future and indeed that of the world. But there is hope.
The bell ringing in the background right when he starts talking about hope. Pretty poetic.
We're seeing peaceful resistance to this neo-fascism.
Indeed.
Most recently, as a response to ISIS violence in Minneapolis and in other cities. The No Kings movement has mobilized millions of protesters. These demonstrations are larger than anything that was seen in Germany after 1933.
Yes, luckily, I mean, I'm torn on how optimistic I am, you know what I mean? I'm torn. On one hand, I mean, I'm a natural optimist. So, there's that. But also, I'm very pessimistic about the two potential outcomes, you know what I mean? I'm kind of torn, but I am default optimist, you know, and I think that America, obviously we have a super strong constitution. And with the Supreme Court's ruling about tariffs this week, even though Trump is now trying to undermine it, but he really can't. And in a lot of major ways, he cannot. He'll tell you he can, but he can't. And that's a major win, you know what I mean? That gave me a lot of optimism for, you know, that the Constitution is still standing. We still do have a semblance of balance of powers, you know, and it's very difficult for Trump. He's done a scarily good job at undermining a lot of our institutions and co-opting them and installing, you know, puppets, essentially, idiots to run them, loyalists. But with that said, you know, there's a lot of safeguards in the Constitution, and so I hope it all works out. You know, I mean, like, obviously, one obvious thing would be if Trump was managed to somehow repeal term limits, you know, and make it to where he could run for a third term. That would be, if that ever happened, because obviously that's in the playbook of any dictator, obviously. It's one of the first things they do. And of course he hasn't been able to do that because he can't do that. There's no realistic way for him to be able to do that. But if he was able to, you know, that would really be, among other things, you know, my optimism would just entirely plummet at that point. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling.
Time to act is now.
Indeed.
History has taught us that all it takes for evil to prevail is for good people to do nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about I mean, if you watch my other channel, you'd know I've been talking about this subject a lot, and I agree, you know what I mean? The time is now, and we have to do something. We have to speak up. And while we have our freedom of speech, we've got to use it to totally reject what's going on, which, of course, I've been doing my best on my, you know, what platforms I have. Of course, my platforms are, nobody watches me from America, but hey, I do like to come on here and show that this is not like a MAGA country, okay? In fact, it's majority disapproval, and it's accelerating in that direction. And the more pressure you guys help with stuff like this, and just your leaders, and, you know, the better.
We believe in the goodness of the American people. We know that there are millions of citizens on both sides of the political spectrum who are deeply concerned about the path.
Right. This is not a debate or a conflict between left and right, in my opinion. It's up and down. It's authoritarian and freedom. That's the debate. No one in America, I mean, in my opinion, hey, if you're an American, if you're true American, if you give a shit about this country at all, if you believe in it at all, then it should be on the basis that we are not an authoritarian country. Okay, that's the opposite of what we are and what we strive to be and what we're founded on. So whether it's authoritarian left or right, doesn't matter to me. Not acceptable. Totally unacceptable. So, I think a lot of people are on that same page as me and figuring that out.
Their country is on, including those who thought their vote would make America.
Oh, another thing, I was saying, like if he repealed term limits, I would just be devastated if that managed to happen. Another thing would be if he manages to delay or cancel the upcoming midterm elections. It would just be so bad. That would really be just so bad. So bad. I don't know what... I mean, I can say what might have to happen at that point, but, I can't say. But, yeah, we need our right to vote.
Great. Many hope for a better future, but all they've gotten are lies. The time is now for the citizens of America to stand up to fascism and defend your democracy, just as you did for Germany and the world. You still have a chance what our ancestors failed to do. Know that you are not alone. We are facing similar dangers here in Germany and Europe. But there's many good people.
Yeah, I saw an article that the AfD is like not exactly unpopular. Oh boy.
Standing up for each other, for democracy, human rights, and a positive shared future. Never again is now.
Wow, that was a very beautiful video. Message received. Message received. I enjoyed that video. It was very... That was very moving. I'm a young person frightened of what is happening in her country. Thank you so much. People like you mean the world to us. Scared young Americans. From a Canadian, I've listened very carefully to the words of a letter to America. I want to add my voice to this message. Thank you from a senior citizen woman in America. I don't recognize my own country anymore. It terrifies me. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.